Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Bluddworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video is a return to my Castles and Crusades series. This is episode 6, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Monsters and Treasure. So Monsters and Treasure is Troll Lord Games' combination of both a monster manual and the treasure lists and tables that you would normally find in the Dungeon Master's Guide in a D&D First Edition. So what they've done is they've taken the monsters and the treasure and combined them up in one volume, which I think is actually more useful to have that when you're creating an adventure. You can very quickly take a look at, all right, well, this is the monster that they're encountering or going to encounter, and then let's take a look at the treasure tables all right in the same book. So I think it's a much better way of presenting that information rather than having to bounce between two different books. There's other things that this does as well that I think is an improvement over AD&D First Edition, and so that is one of the main reasons why Gary Gygax himself said that this is the true successor of AD&D First Edition, even above AD&D Second Edition, and also you have many of the advantages of decades worth of knowledge in putting together books and supplements, and so better formatting and better layouts and such, just much more useful and usable than some of the older editions of Dungeons and Dragons. So let's get right into digging into this. Now, I do have at least one request from one of my subscribers. He requested that I take a look at certain creatures in here because he felt that the damage of their normal attacks was, just super high, and I will address that. But I will start. I'm not going to bury the lead. I do agree with him in certain cases, and actually the situation in one of the cases that I looked at was even worse than I think he even realized. So it's something that I think that you as a castle keeper can make adjustments to, or you can just frame the use of those particular creatures in a slightly different way, and I'll go into more detail. But here is Monsters and Treasures, and this was printed in 2019. Castles and Crusades does not use editions; they use print runs to show. So you can tell basically what print runs books kind of go together based on the fact that their cover art is going to match somewhat or have some style to it. That's similar across the three core books. At least that's my impression of it, looking at several different time periods when they were released. But the core of the rules is, I'd say, about 95% sustained from 2004 until the present day. So they only tweak rules when it's really necessary, and that doesn't include adding content. That just includes changing content from back then. So if you have the 2010 Player's Handbook, you can still use that to today. So there's no need to replace editions. If you don't have any of these Castles and Crusades books, then I would say to pick up the most recent printings and you're good to go. And even if your players coming to your table have older printings of them, they're good to go as well. there's only going to be a very, very slight chance that there is some minor change. And the only three changes that I know of is the barbarian class was changed from its initial printing. The monk class was changed, and the encumbrance system has been slightly changed during the course of these, going on almost 20 some odd years that Castles and Crusades has been in print. So, that being said, let's get to I said I was going to, show off the cover so you can see the cover art. Even the back kind of continues the rest of the scene. And then interior art is exceptional. The book's layout is very clear, and I'll go into more detail with that. So there's a lot of art, not for every single creature, but for many of the creatures that are certainly unique creatures to Castles and Crusades, but even some of the more mundane, like the centaur here. I just like the art style. I think the art style is exceptional. And let's give proper credit to the artists in this, because I think that that's really standout. So the cover art, design, layout, interior art, logos, and logo designs are by Peter $20 Bradley with Mark Sandy. Additional interior art by Sarah Walker, Jason Walton, Eric Wilson, Brian Schwartz, Mark Allen, Danielle Bigliardo. The art colorist is Joseph Ramirez. So that's another really important thing, I think, and you occasionally see that in comic books where you'd have an inker and then a penciler, and I think it's pretty cool that you have two separate artists, one for coloring and the other for the black and white line work as well. I think it creates a much more vibrant image. So without further ado, let's move on actually into the book itself. So here is the now classic Castles and Crusades logo or sigil. Everyone that's playing Castles and Crusades is a knight of the Crusade. So they have a table of contents, very practical in that you have the alphabetical listing. Excuse me. Every creature here has the corresponding page number that they can be found. That's pretty much industry standard. What they do here is they do segregate different types of creatures. So, like you have your fairies here, right? So, and all of your fairy types. So you have fairy beings, fairy Alfar, and fairy Ascarfoa, and they have an asterisk next to them, and I'll get into detail as to why that is. But then you have the Children of the Light, and then all of the fairies that fall within that subcategory. Then Children of the Twilight, and all of the fairy folk that fall into that category. Children of Darkness. Then you have your Fey Beasts, supernatural animals that fall within the Fey and Finwolk and Furbolg, and we go further on. So they do have various categories of creatures that all fall within there, and so they'll be listed, such as it's very common to see like lycanthrope, and then the various types of lycanthrope. So again, very good layout. Here we have the introduction. So this is just the introduction to the book, and then how to use the various stat blocks and everything, how to, decipher them and use them. Again, very common. I don't know any that don't do that. So here we have the monster characteristics. So the number that are encountered, the size, fairly uniform. Hit dice. Now, a thing about hit dice in Castles and Crusades is that not all monsters have the same die used for their hit dice. So some are going to have a D6, others will have a D8. I've also seen D10 and possibly, although I haven't come across it, D12. So a 3 hit die monster isn't just an indicator of its level, but a 3 hit die monster could have 6 hit points per hit die, 8 hit points per hit die, and so on. So it's not as true a measure as one where a game system where the hit die is D8 for all creatures. All right, in the monster manual. So that's an important difference to show. Movement, armor class. Armor class, remember, Castles and Crusades is an ascending armor class, which is a much more modern, view, even though for the most part it's like 30 years old now, but it's not descending armor class. And this is the first system that really made ascending armor class make sense to me. Maybe I was just being dense about it and too hooked on the nostalgia of descending, but Castles and Crusades system made it like okay, now I fully understand it and can certainly go with it now without a problem. Attacks, specials, they're very different, various different types of special vision. So you have deep vision, dark vision, dusk vision. You have immunity and resistances, and immunities and resistances plus saving throws are a little bit different than I've seen in other systems. So they have saving throws. Certain creatures have saving throws versus physical attacks. Certain have saving throws against mental attacks, and others have saving throws against both mental and physical. And then there are those that have no saving throw whatsoever, all right, or no modification to their saving throw. So that's an interesting thing, because I've come across some creatures that, have saving throws just again to be applied just to their physical attribute rather than any of their other attributes. And so that just tells you which attribute pattern to use or measure to use when they're rolling their saving throws. Because attributes in this game are either primary, second, or non-primary. Let's put it that way. So you either get, you either need to roll a 12 or you need to roll an 18. All right, so much simpler system than AD&D First Edition. We have intelligence, and we have basically the intelligence range, what they stand for. We have alignment of every creature. We have types of creatures, so we have aberrations, and I'll actually get to that a little bit. Aberrations are bizarre anatomy, strange abilities, and alien mindset, or a combination of the three. And that might actually explain some of the heavy damage that is issued out by some of these creatures that was brought up by Ajax, my subscriber, who asked me to take a look at some specific creatures in here. We have beasts, constructs, dragons, elementals, planar, fey creatures. We have giants, humanoids, magical beasts, monstrous humanoids, oozes, plants, shape changers, undead, and vermin. Everything that falls within those categories or subcategories of monster in general. Then we have treasure and experience points. I really like the way they do experience points in this as well. So here we have the introduction, and I'm going to talk about experience points now, because there is a section here, as you can see, on monster creation. So if you're creating a totally unique monster, which more experienced castle keepers, especially those that create their own homebrewed worlds, are going to look to create their own creatures in those worlds, and so, or at least modify ones that are already in the monster and treasures book here. So they give you a very simple chart to determine what the base is. So a one hit die creature has a base of 5 XP plus 1 XP per hit point. They'll get an additional 2 points, 4 points, or 5 points based on if they have a special 1, special 2, or special 3 category special ability. So special 1 categories includes 3 or more attacks per round, spell or spell-like abilities, and non-magical special abilities. Special 2, this category includes 5 or more attacks per round, maximum damage of 24 or more points in a single attack, spells or spell-like abilities of 4th through 7th level, and extraordinary powers of invisibility or earthrealness. Special 3, this category includes death attacks, petrification attacks, and spell or spell-like abilities of 8th level or higher. All right, so, and you may have creatures that have all 3, so they're really going to boost. So let's say you're looking at a middling level creature. So let's say a 7 hit die creature would have 180 base, 7 per hit point, which could be kind of substantial, actually, with 7 hit die. And let's say it has all 3. You're going to take the 90, the 135, and the 180 and combine that up. You start looking at a creature that's going to be around 800 plus XP just for killing 1. So that's pretty important. They have a whole section here on creating your own creatures, and now we get into the actual listing of creatures. So here we have an Abolith. It's the first one that you see in the Monster Manual 2, I believe, and in later editions of Dungeons and Dragons. So we have this here, but I'm going to go to the first creature that Ajax wanted me to take a look at. And his question was about this Amphisbaena. All right, so its number appearing is 1 to 3. It's a size small creature, 3 to 4 feet in length. Its HD is just 3 HD with a D6. Its AC is a 14. Its saves are for physical attacks. Its movement rate is 40, which is fairly quick. Its bite does 4d8 of damage. And I think that's when he stood out and he was like, wow, this thing is dishing out between 4 and 32 points of damage per bite. And when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, that seems like a lot. But then I read even further and I started saying, wait, that's not all that this thing can do. It has 2 special attacks, Constriction and Poison. It's low intelligence, it's chaotic neutral. It's an aberration, all right? So that leads me to believe that maybe part of the fact that it has such a strong attack for such a small and low hit die creature is the fact that it's an aberration, all right? Which is going to impact your choices on how you use this creature. All right, and then its treasure is type 1, its experience is 200 plus 3 per hit point. Okay, so let's look at some of its other attacks. So its constriction, a successful attack by the snake, can lead to constriction attack. In the round following the successful attack, the victim must make a strength save. If the save fails, the victim is constricted by the snake for 2d6 points of damage per round. A victim can make additional strength saves every round to escape constriction, but escape becomes more difficult as it tightens its grip, Saving throws to escape therefore suffer a -2 cumulative penalty for each round thereafter. So it bites you first round for 4d8 damage. All right. Then if you fail your strength check, you are now constricted for the following round. On top of that, with that first strike, it also has poison. So let me read the poison. A victim bitten by the creature gets an additional 1d8 points of damage and a -2 to all primary attributes for the next 1 to 2 days. A successful Constitution save reduces this by half. So let's carry through the sequence of this attack. It bites you. It's poisoned you. All right. If you fail that poison check, you take an additional d8 points of damage and you lose 2 points to all primary attributes for 1 to 2 days. Even if you save that poison check, you take half damage and you take just a -1 to all of your primary attributes. Now imagine if your attribute is Constitution or Strength. Let's say this thing bites a fighter and their primary attribute is a Strength. Well, now their Strength is at a -2 or minimally a -1. The constriction comes the following round. So now they're going to have a -2 to prevent being constricted. All right. This thing is a devastating creature, especially 1 to 3. And with an HD of 3, a castle keeper might be thinking, oh, this is just an HD 3 creature. I can throw these at my players. That's a player party of 5, all level 3 or 4. This is not something that should be out of their wheelhouse, out of their capability of dealing with. Until you do the calculus of seeing how powerful, with just some unlucky rolls, this attack from one of these things can be against an individual character, most likely kill an individual character, especially if it's in that low, low level to even mid-level range. This thing is going to be a big deal. So how do you use it? I would use this creature sparingly. Number one, it is an aberration, which means that it is not something that should be commonly found. So I would use it sparingly. I might also make it the focus of the adventure party's quest, right? So at least now they know what they're coming up against, all right? And they might say, well, I know we're going after these types of creatures, but I don't know anything else. So they're going to have to do some research and find out, well, why does this thing have such a bad reputation? Why has other adventure parties avoided taking this particular quest? What is it about this creature that we're going? And so they go to their local druid or their local lore master or whatever and try to gather as much information as they can. And then they start learning, well, this is an aberration type creature. It has a severely lethal bite that is poisonous, and it can also constrict. So but it's fairly easy to kill if you survive its attacks. Armed with that information, now they can go forward in a much more cautious and prepared way than they would just bang, I just encountered 3 of these in some dungeon, without any pre-planning, let's say, by the castle keeper in, gauging how this creature is being used. So that's the first one. I could see where Ajax is coming from and saying that's a lot of damage for that first bite. I completely agree with him. It is. So you do, of course, have the power of reducing that, and when I did a comparison to some of the other creatures, I really started to see his point even more so. Because I will do a comparison to a black dragon bite, and it's nowhere close to this. And so that's where I think there's a little bit of a strangeness to that particular number of 4d8 damage. So let's go to the next creature that I believe he also brought up the Bakavak. All right, so again, large creature. I believe it's this large snapping turtle. All right, I'm not quite sure. I don't think this is a bullet. Doesn't look like a bullet, so I believe it's a large snapping creature, snapping turtle. And once I understood that, then I was like, all right, I can understand its bite doing 4d12 now. It's first of all, it's a 10-foot large snapping turtle. It has HD 5. This one has the D10 for its hit points, individual hit points. So much more hardy creature than the last that we just looked at. Has an AC of 15, saves versus physical. Movement rate is 50 feet, which is really quick, actually. So its bite does 4d12. Its claws do 5d6. So even its claws do a lot of damage. Anywhere from 5 to 30 points of damage. Special. It has both multiple attacks and strangle. So again, a lot of damage that this thing can dish out. All right. In its attack round. If this thing gets surprise on you, you're an individual character, getting hit by this thing, you're going to be in a world of hurt, all right, because it's going to do claw, bite, and that's a whole lot of damage coming out in one shot. Again, it's now this is a beast, so I would say it's probably more common than an aberration, but I still wouldn't throw this thing out there. It shouldn't be lying at the bottom of every single pond and lake that the characters come across. It should be something, again, it could be something that they're specifically sent to kill. Maybe this is occupying a lake and local fishermen hire the group to get rid of this, unknown monster that has been destroying small boats. And perfect example of it. So snapping turtle, I can see, especially a huge one or a very large one, I could see 4d12 damage because they're just notorious for that bite power. Black dragon. Now, first of all, I love this picture. I know it's kind of hard for you to see, but you're getting a slight sense of it. So there's a man with a sword in one hand, a torch in the other. And all you see behind him is the teeth and the eyes behind him, and just a very, very vague outline of the dragon behind him. So just awesome picture of a black dragon. So here, and the reason why I brought this up, its bite does 2d12. So 2 to 24 versus that first small size 3 to 4 foot snake doing 4d8 damage, and that's where I get a slight disconnect between size difference and damage output of a standard attack. So again, I wouldn't necessarily increase the black dragon's damage output, but rather I might look to decrease the other one, or again, treat that other snake creature as a focal point of the adventure rather than just some random encounter. A black dragon is going to be most likely the focal point of their adventure. All right, so black dragons have, or all dragons have a variation on their sizes, as is, standard. So they have categories, not necessarily sizes. So they go from category 1 through 12, and those represent their age. So a category 12 is ancient. Its age is 1500 plus. Its bonus to saving throws is a +8. Its size, goes in feet. So a black dragon, for example, its size is, let me find it. My eyes are screwed up. See below. So its size, you would determine its size, and then that will adjust its XP. Everything else, based on its size, and here we go. So age. So here's the chart for black dragons exclusively. Age 1 through 12. Its size is based on its age. Its HD is based on its age. Its AC is based on its age. All right. Then it has its dragon breath, its savings, its intelligence, and its treasure is all based on, its age. So really like the fact that they don't just make the creature more powerful as it gets older, but it actually increases their intelligence. It increases their their dragon breath, obviously, and it increases their treasure amount as well. So, and they do that for every single dragon in here. Now, just to focus, there are some pages that are full color pages, and just beautiful, beautiful artwork. So this here, the woman's your focal point, right? So you see the woman first, and then you notice the white dragon behind her. At least that's how I saw the image first. It's pretty cool how they kind of blended in. I almost thought that this was her wing first time I looked, and then I saw that there. But this here can become an encounter just based on this picture alone. So the artwork in this is exceptional. I just really, really like it. And I know there was one that I wanted to point out that, and I'll jump to it, and you'll probably be surprised by what I focus on, but it's I could have gone to the table of contents to get to it, but I will get to it quick enough. I'm almost there. The mule. Now, I know it's hard. It might be hard for you to see this, but the fact that they did this much artwork for a mule is, and the details that are in it. Again, I wish you could see this image better. The detail that they put into a very, very mundane creature, that I just love the fact of how they did that, and how they would put that much time and effort into a fairly common, creature that player characters would normally just ignore. There's a mummy, obviously. Some more full-page art. This is the Naga section, and as we can see, so this is their depiction of an orc. So that is the Castles and Crusades depiction of an orc. Looks very hairless, green, bottom tusks. Pretty nasty looking creature. Orcs, by the way, in Castles and Crusades are low intelligence and lawful evil. So they go back to one of the earlier editions of alignment for orcs, because orcs kind of go back and forth between chaotic evil and lawful evil. So here they go back to lawful evil. I'd have to look to see if that was the original, if they originally started off lawful evil. I like this picture of a rock. So you really get the size difference there. There's an elephant, there's the rock. This is their version of a rust monster. That looks pretty cool. That looks more like an... So rust monsters resemble large armadillo-like creatures with long tails and two thin antennae. Yeah, so it makes it look more like a more insectoid than the original. Pretty cool looking. One of the most feared creatures in all of Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm sure it still carries that same fear. Again, another aberration. Moves fairly quickly, 40 feet. Its antenna, its attack, just antenna touch rusts. Rust. Any metallic object striking or struck by a rust monster corrodes instantly. Rust monsters can corrode and devour. Any metal magic items may be destroyed by this corrosion. There is a 10% chance, minus 1% per plus of the item in question that is destroyed by this effect. A +2 longsword would have an 8% chance of decaying. So, so kind of hard for it to happen, but still very possible. And it's instant, so it's like bang, gone. So you have that +2 plate mail armor. You roll a, the DM or Castle Keeper rolls a 6%. Boom, your +2 plate mail armor is instantly gone. Slight change in art style here, but still pretty cool. It's probably a water elemental or something similar to it. Full page cover art, color art. That's a skeletal warrior. So I'm very, very impressed with not just the physical nature of the book, but really impressed by the layout, how easy it is to read. Really impressed with the creatures that are in here, both mundane and unique. So their take on, the D&D, the ones that came from Dungeons and Dragons, and so their take on them, both changing in their look and just how they're described. Some of their abilities are different. It seemed to be a little bit stronger than what they were. That's an awesome picture. I mean, no denying the art that's in here. So now we get to the treasures. So we have alignment of sentient items. Items with language and will. So you can actually generate and create magic items here using these various charts. Whole section on controlling sentient items. Land and title as treasure items. So that's very interesting. Like I said, this is my first look through this. So titles and land are far more complex than other types of treasure in that they are not found, used, or spent. However, title and land can offer both the castle keeper and the player a myriad of opportunities for adventure, intrigue, role-playing, and more. So they're actually talking about granting title and land as treasure, and having that built in. And then they have the breakdown by class of by the character classes of what those might look like and how they work and function and everything. Let's take a look at my favorite, the Rogue Assassin. As often as they act alone, rogues and assassins work within a network of guilds. At low level, they gain guild membership. At mid levels, they gain exemption from guild dues. At high levels, these masters of their craft are made guild leaders and given neighborhoods to control. Here, they can exact payment for protection and gain 1 to 6 followers. So, yeah, so they're treating that whole campaign mechanism of rewarding higher level characters with land and title. Now we get to the treasure tables. And treasure tables, they have types of treasure and then uniform across the board. All right, so we have treasure types 1 through 18 here, and then cross section of how many coins, how many gems, how many extraordinary items, how many magic items, and the percentages in which to have them. All right, and then the number of items that are found, and then it further breaks it down into jewelry, extraordinary items, expert weapons, jewelry, worn and ceremonial items, handcrafted items, all right, antiques, value of various items, magic item generation. So this is where you roll to see what kind of magic item came up. So that's a generic table. Then all of your potions, scrolls, weapons, swords, weapon bonuses you do separately, special swords, miscellaneous weapon types, special miscellaneous weapons, armor, shields, armor and shields, random shield type. And there's really quite a bit here. I believe there's actually more tables in this than you have in the AD&D first edition DMG. Magical treasure, then here comes the descriptions. We won't go through this at the time, and let's see if we have anything that comes that's going to different. I just saw a deck of many things, so that's fairly common. Oh, and types of poison. All right, as treasure items, types of poison. So that's pretty cool. Oh, that's a cool image there. Tomb of the Unclean. It's like it's soaked in blood. It's a pretty cool picture. So there we have it. And I'm going to switch views here. So as a first look through this this Monsters and Treasure for Castles and Crusades, I'm really impressed with it. I think that it has a lot of really interesting things going on with it, and its artwork is phenomenal. Its layout is very clear, and the few possible issues is that some of the creatures seem to be very powerful, but hey, that goes to kind of the real old school methodology of of these role playing games is that there's monsters in there that can kill you with one strike, and you don't tone them down. What you do is you change the way that you use them as the game master, and you, as players, you change the way that you approach engagements with these types of creatures. A lot of times you might see a creature and your best response is going to be avoid it. Your second best might be to run away, and your third and final, have no other choice, is to stand your ground and fight it. And that should be a kind of encounter that can occur, is that you do encounter something that can wipe out your group, and you better think fast and act fast, and do a little bit of hoping that your dice rolls allow you to escape, or you might lose a character or two, and that's that's the art, and that's the calling of participating in a heroic fantasy. That you don't have all of this praise and treasure heaped upon you for not living up to the expectation that you are going to be facing very, very challenging, and deadly creatures out there to help, secure the safety of the region that you're in. So, really cool stuff. I will take a look at the Monsters and Treasures, the specific book for the World of Erd, which is the default setting for Castles of Crusades next, and then I'll start taking a look at the Castle Keeper's Guide. So, as always, thanks for joining. Just to give you a little update on some upcoming videos, I am going to do a few more shorts, continue my series of the OSR cover art booklets that I have, and I'm going to go through those. And next weekend, so next Saturday, I will be attending my very first ShireCon, which is a small gaming convention in Connecticut. So it is just 45 minutes away from me. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm going to be playing in two different games there. One I believe is Castles and Crusades, and the other is AD&D First Edition. So really excited about that. I am just going with with my iPad, my cell phone, a set of dice, as a player, a book, to a notebook, a notepad, so that I can record things as it goes along, and and maybe if I could dig it up, I have something. I know that Eric Tankar from Tankar's Tavern is going to be there. I think some other individuals that I've heard of in the in the circles that I travel in the OSR or old school gaming circles, are also going to be there. So I'm really really hopeful to meet as many people as I can. Like I said, it's a small con. It's only one day, so I'm sure that I will have an opportunity to meet everybody. I hope to, and hopefully there's some pretty cool vendors. I haven't seen what vendors are actually going to be there, but I'm certainly looking to pick up some T-shirts and other stuff, and some gaming material as well. I'm going to probably go there with a couple $100 in my pocket, ready to spend, and it'll be a great one day of gaming, and I'll do a video recap of my whole experience there, along with pictures and such. So really anxious to do that, and looking forward to it. So as always, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. If you're going to be at ShireCon 2022 next weekend, maybe I'll get a chance to see you there. If you are going there, leave a comment in this section here, and we can hopefully meet each other there. Maybe have a drink, and maybe we're at the same gaming table as well. So that'll be cool. So once again, thanks for joining. Hope you like this video. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Any questions or comments, anything you want me to specifically take a look at, please feel free to leave that in there. As you can see from this video, I read your comments. I respond to them when you make requests. And even though it might take me a little while, a week or so, to get around to it, I always try to get around to your questions and comments and do a video specifically on some of the things that you're pointing out. So again, have a great weekend. Take care.